All right, good evening, everyone. I have 4 o'clock, so we will open up this council meeting for tonight. Thank you all for being here. Looking forward to another good one. And we will start with the pledge. And I've asked Councilman Faulkner to do that.
Again, please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilman Roberts, would you lead us in a word of prayer, please?
Thank you very much. Dear Heavenly Father, we stand here humbly and offer our thanks to you, Almighty God, for the countless blessings you shower upon us so abundantly every day. We thank you for giving us another day on your beautiful earth. We thank you for our families and all the lovely people you put in our lives. We thank you for allowing us the privilege to serve our community. We ask for your holy wisdom and guidance in all that we do, and pray for forgiveness of our sins and mercy on our souls. We pray this through Jesus Christ, our Savior. Amen.
Amen.
Very nice.
Thank you, John. So with that, I will open our regular meeting and ask that we review the minutes from the February 25th meeting. Do I have any comments or concerns?
I move we approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion's been properly made and seconded by Councilman Faulkner and Councilwoman Lake. All those in favor, assign aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion carries. Minutes are approved from the February meeting. Next order of business will be our additional appropriations, ordinance 2025 HCCO-09. Madam Auditor.
Ordinance number 2025-HCCO-9, additional appropriations. Whereas it has been determined that it's now necessary to appropriate more money than was appropriated in the 2025 annual budget. Now therefore be it ordained by the County Council of Howard County, Indiana, that for the expenses of the taxing unit, the following additional sums of money are hereby appropriated out of the funds named for the purposes specified, subject to the laws governing the same. County General Fund, Commissioners, Basement Restoration, $72,048.99. Total County General Fund, $72,048.99. Lit Economic Development Fund, Unsafe Properties, $56,000. Total Lit Economic Development Fund, $56,000. Local Public Health Services Fund, Program Partner Supplies, $18,000. Travel and Training, $2,000. Advertisements and Publications, $1,200. Discretionary, $10,130. Vehicles, $4,000. Total Cumulative Capital Fund, $35,330. Local Health Maintenance Fund, Medical Supplies, $2,000. Office Supplies, $3,000. Supplies, Mosquito Chemicals, $2,000. Travel and Training, $4,325. Equipment Repair, $5,000. Equipment, $18,500. Total Local Health Maintenance Fund, $34,825. Local Health Department Trust Fund, Other Supplies, $24,000. Other Services and Charges, $5,000. Total Local Health Department Trust Fund, $29,000. Opioid Restricted Fund, Other Services and Charges, $100,897.61. Total Opioid Restricted Fund, $100,897.61. Opioid Unrestricted Fund, Other Services and Charges, $280,713.33. Total Opioid Unrestricted Fund, $280,713.33. Meyer Opioid Settlement Fund, Other Services and Charges, $1,925. Total Meyer Opioid Settlement Fund, $1,925. Family Recovery Court Grant Fund, graduation supplies, $750. Special projects and incentives, $2,500. Participant housing, $2,000. Participant transportation, $2,500. Continuing education, $4,000. Intervention and treatment, $500. Drug screens, $2,580. Dental assistance, $5,000. Total Family Recovery Court Grant Fund, $19,830. County user fee, project income fund, unobligated, $10,000. Total county user fee, project income fund, $10,000. Energy efficiency block grant fund, contract services, $75,000. Equipment, $125,000. Total energy efficiency block grant fund, $200,000. Drug court grant fund, graduation supplies, $300. Special projects and incentives, $3,500. Drug screens, $6,000. Participant needs, $8,550. Total drug court grant fund, $18,350. Reentry court grant fund, graduation supplies, $300. Special projects and incentives, $3,500. Drug screens, $6,000. Participant needs, $11,850. Total reentry court grant fund, $21,650. Court reform grant fund, office supplies, $2,400. Equipment, $6,100. Total reentry court grant fund, $8,500. Total additional appropriations for all funds, $889,069.93.
Nicely done. Thank you, Jessica. All right, first one up will be the commissioners to discuss their general fund. You gonna do rock, paper, scissors?
I think Mr. Dodd wants to put all his together, so I was gonna do the unsafe property part.
Oh, okay, thank you.
that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you, Commissioner.
Unfortunately, we're here before you tonight about 477 North Hickory Lane. I believe this has been going on with the county for 5 years. I've been a commissioner for about 27 or 28 months, and it's the very first order of business that I dealt with as commissioner. Mr. Wyman handed it off to me and said, "Here you go." And through going to the property on several occasions, driving by it on numerous occasions, and listening to Mr. Stevens, the property owner, tell us on numerous occasions that he would take care of it. He's had extensive conversations with Mr. Sheeline, with Mr. Wilson, and with us as commissioners saying that this will be taken care of. And unfortunately, we're at this point. 7 or 8 months ago, we went in front of the court, and the court was very lenient and gave him an opportunity to, once again, to take care of it. He promised that he would, and no action was taken. After that court hearing, probably 30 to 45 days after that, Mr. Wilson got a call from his children asking that they would, or saying that they was interested in possibly taking care of the problem. So we was lenient again and patient with them and give them 60 days or so, and no action has been taken. So that's where we're at tonight. I'm going to pass pictures around, and I have a quote from Green Acres Farm, which is 3718 North, 700 East in Kokomo. The quote is back from the end of October, but I have talked to Mr. Miller since then. I talked to him last week, said his quote is still good. So it is expensive. It's unfortunate we're at where we're at, but I will tell you that I got more phone calls about this than I have all other phone calls combined as commissioner. So the residents of this area are upset, and I think they have every reason to be. If you haven't driven by it, when you go by it, you'll see it, because you'll know. You'll know when you see it what it is. For lack of a better word, it's not an eyesore, it is a junkyard. And talking to Mr. Wilson, and I brought Mr. Sheeline, I had Mr. Sheeline come up in case there was some questions that went back before I was commissioner, because he's been very helpful and told me that it's been going on for, like I said, 5 years. And then Mr. Dodd's going to finish up talking about where we're going with the nuisance ordinance in regards not just, but some other things that we've been dealing with as well. I would like to end my part by saying, I don't necessarily expect you to take action tonight, but I don't expect you to not take any action in the future. I think that this needs to be dealt with in the next 30, 45, 60 days, something of that nature, because these people need an answer on what's going on. Several of them have attempted to sell their homes and such, and have had very, issues with that. This is a costly endeavor for the county, so I'm not saying that it's a decision you have to make tonight because of the cost of it. So I want to pass this out to you guys and let you take a look at it. There's probably upwards of 20 vehicles, or when I say vehicles, I'm talking about RVs, boats, and things of that nature that potentially would have some value from a scrapyard and such, which I'm not an expert on that at all, so I don't know. But I would think that this cost would potentially not be this much if we're talking about scrapping those vehicles and so on. So this is the cost, and we can go from there. I'll be glad to answer questions, and I'll pass this out, and as I said, Mr. Sheeline or Mr. Dodd has information possibly as well. Or Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Commissioner, is this the unsafe properties you're
Yes, sir.
requesting?
Yes?
For $56,000?
It's actually 53.5.
53.5?
53.5.
Okay. Now,
$2,500 discount.
that line item in that fund, Fund 112, we have it appropriated right now, so it's already got ample money already in there to cover this.
And I don't know, is that something that, I think Mr. Dodd wanted to speak to that, or in regards to that part of it, because we understand that. We wanted to make you folks aware of it, because I think that this is something that we should be working together on.
Absolutely.
In a situation like this, but I think Mr. Dodd might speak to some of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We wanted to go a little bit out of order because this is going to take a little bit more time, but, and Commissioner Lipinski's right, this is one property. Keep that in mind. This is one property. We get complaints about properties weekly, sometimes more than one property in a week. So several months ago, we went down a road and we started working on a nuisance ordinance along with Mr. Wilson. He started writing that for us. We've looked at it, we've massaged it. And so we've been working on this nuisance ordinance for the county. Here's the problem with the nuisance ordinance, and Mr. Sheeline will come up and speak about it, but we can write a perfect nuisance ordinance, perfect. But who's going to enforce it? I can't go out and enforce it. You can't go out and enforce it. We have to have people, or a person who can go out and enforce this with some teeth, some kind of enforcement capability. I will tell you that last Sunday, a week ago last Sunday, I had somebody call me and they're like, we've got chickens out here in the county. Now, that doesn't sound too bad until you go out there and there's neighbors all around and they've got 100 chickens and they've got 50 roosters. Can you imagine the noise level of 50 roosters? And this isn't like out in the middle of a cornfield. These are neighbors on all three sides. And then we had somebody call us, and I went by just to see what it was like. And, we brought this up at a commissioners meeting. This person had pigs, goats, turkeys, and various other animals in a nice neighborhood. Neighbors fairly close. And I think you all know where I'm talking about. How do you do that? How do you address this? I come up with a term I called residential density. If you are way out in the country and you've got cornfields all around you, knock yourself out. You live in the country. But when you've got neighbors, nice houses, all around you, close around you, mind you, close, and you try to raise pigs and turkeys and goats and various other animals in your front yard, that's a nuisance. I'm sorry. That's a nuisance. Or if you've got junk cars next door and there's $1 million house, that's a nuisance. So where is our role as a government? Where do we step in? I don't want to be Big Brother. I don't think any of you want to be Big Brother. But we have a responsibility to those neighbors. And a nuisance ordinance is a way to do that. Now, that being said, somebody's got to enforce this nuisance ordinance or there's no reason to have one, because it would be useless.
Well, Mr. Commissioner, I'm all for what you're advocating for. I think my only statement here is the request is for $56,000, which is understandable. Job's got to be done, it's got to be paid for. But that line item's already been appropriated $100,000.
That's why I bring up my point, sir, is that's one property. That's not going to last very long. One property. Just down the road from this property is the other one of the other properties I was telling you about.
Can you put a lien on the property for that amount?
I'm sorry?
Can you put a lien on the property for that amount?
Yeah, I think I failed to mention that, I'm sorry. I think Mr. Wilson can speak to that, and I believe that legally, we can put a lien on the property for the amount of the cleanup.
That's correct. That's one of the tools we have. Whether the lien is any good or not, it's another story. You can put a lien on his house, and if the house ever sells, you could maybe recoup some of your money. Also try to enforce your lien.
Alan,
Yeah, certainly, that's one of the tools we have.
can we put it on their property taxes?
That's potentially another solution. And again, I'm not sure that ever gets us our money back. We have, as the commissioners have both told you, this is expensive. This is just one of several of these that we're working on. It will get very expensive, and to say, well, maybe we can recoup our money in the future, whether it be by taxes or lien, it's all well and good, but the real question is, how do we pay for it now?
So there's actually a pipeline here, perhaps, and the funding that you're asking for, we have enough already, but looking just over the horizon, what we have won't be enough, and that's what you're requesting for, is something to give you some duration in this process.
And you're right, it's a view. No, that we're going to be coming back because this won't last long.
Okay.
And we're also going to be coming back, and this is where Mr. Sheeline can speak, is we have to have some kind of enforcement. How do we enforce this? You know, like I said, as a commissioner, I have no enforcement capability to go out there and start writing enforcements. That's going to be the next issue. We have what I consider a good nuisance ordinance ready to go. But I'm not willing to sign it unless we have an ability to enforce it. Otherwise, it's just a piece of paper.
So how would you enforce it? You approve the cleanup bill and
Sure.
authorize them to go do it?
You ask a great leading question. Mr. Sheeline, would you like to answer that? Thank you for asking that question.
Thank you for presenting your presentation.
And then I'll come back to the basement renovation and answer that.
Good evening. Yes, code enforcement is a very serious issue, and as both commissioners have stated, it's something that I think we've neglected for a long time in our county. I don't have to think too hard, and I can probably come up with 25 more properties just like this one without thinking too hard. So $100,000, yes, but it's not going to last at all. And what I'm afraid is, and I'm going to be perfectly honest, my office is already stretched too thin with all the development going on within the city and in the county. We are already stretched too thin. I have no problem helping out when I can, because right now the Howard County Plan Commission is the only code enforcement we have in the county. That's it. Now, do we get some code enforcement done? Absolutely we do. We go out, we write letters, we visit properties, we take pictures. I send out letters sometimes. Alan helps in that respect. He sends out letters, people call us, we work out a deal, they comply, we get it done. That's about 10% of the time. The other 90%, they don't want to comply, and then that's where the problem arises, because we really don't have anything in place to make those property owners comply when it gets to this point like the Stevens property is. And what I don't want to happen, and again, I'm going to be perfectly honest, I don't want all this to fall on the Plan Commission because we just don't have the time and we don't have the staff. So if we're going to do the nuisance ordinance, and trust me, I've been talking about an ordinance like this since 2010. So it's not, I want this to happen, but I'm also a realist that I know that if we don't have the funds for it, it's not going to do us any good. I mean, an ordinance that you can't enforce, you might as well not even write it. You might, as Commissioner Dodd said, there's no reason to even sign it if we don't have the funds to enforce it and the people in place to enforce it. So, I mean, I'm willing to do whatever I can. There's more to it than just sending out letters. I mean, someone just brought up the possibility of liens. Who's going to put the liens on the property? Who's going to follow through with that? Those are the type of questions that we need to get answered before we, in my opinion, before we move forward to possibly coming to a realization that we have an ordinance in place that we can sign and that we can use to clean these properties up. Because trust me, we have a lot of properties in the county that need to get, and the city has them too, but the difference is, right, the city does have things in place that we don't have out in the county. So, we need to get to that point. And, I know it's always about money, no matter what it's always about money, but, it depends on how we want to make our county look. And here's the thing, if we spend $56,000 on the Stevens property, which it needs to get cleaned up, there's no question about it. But then when the word gets out, hey, the county's got this new ordinance now, and then I'm going to be getting calls, the commissioners will be getting calls right and left, the health department will probably be getting calls right and left, and then all of a sudden we have no money, we have no more money to enforce that, then we look, for lack of a better phrase, I think we look a little silly because we have an ordinance that we can't enforce. So that's my 2 cents, if anybody's had any questions. Yes, sir.
So when I look at those pictures, is that the Miller property you said?
I'm sorry?
The pictures was that?
That's the Stevens property.
Okay. So when I look at those pictures, I say, 3 trailers and 50 skids and 7 trucks and stuff. What does the end state look like? If you say, hey, this property is now cleaned up, I mean, would it be cleaned up if there were 2 trailers and 5 trucks instead of 7 and 20 skids instead of 50? So I don't have a clear idea of what the expectation is for the end state. And frankly, I'm not sure how you would do that. You could say, okay, we want this property cleaned up, but what does cleaned up property look like?
My understanding in the city is when they do a property cleanup, if they have given the property owner ample time to remove all the items or keep what they want, and those items are still there, when they go in and clean it up, they remove everything. That's not, obviously you're not gonna remove the petitioner's personal automobiles or things, but anything that's junk in the yard, it gets removed. Because they've had, and in this case, we've had at least 5 face-to-face meetings with Mr. Stevens about this property. And in every case, he has assured us that he would get the property cleaned up. And he said it will take some time, and we've been very gracious with him over the years to get this cleaned up. And it just doesn't happen.
But my point is, do the trailers, let's talk about the trailers as an example of some of the stuff that's on the property. I don't know if that's what the objection is. And by the way, I don't think I know Mr. Stevens, but I may. I'm not sure about that. And so if you say, hey, I want you to clean up this property, and he says, okay, I'm going to move my trailers over here, got a parking area for my trailers. I've rearranged my junk on my property.
He
That's
did
something.
do that.
And I made it neater than it was. At what point is that type of action sufficient versus, man, you got to get rid of some of that stuff?
He did do that, Mr. Faulkner. And it was almost became a game at one point. When you took pictures, we would take pictures and he would send pictures, and you could tell specifically that he moved one vehicle. He moved one vehicle and he moved it 10 feet away from the other vehicle and said, look, I'm working on it.
Yeah.
And that's where, but we never got any further than that. And this went on for a couple months, and, you know, we addressed it further, and that's when we got to the court and so on. But I do think a couple of other comments, and I'm not trying to take over for Mr. Sheeline, but his points are Mr. Sheeline's points. With a new ordinance, that would take care of your question. The ordinance would specifically spell out exactly what a clean property would be. The new ordinance should exactly do that and say, this is what a property standard should be. And that would be all in the new ordinance, one. And secondly, he's talking, you know, he says his staff is maxed out and such. The way I understand it with the new ordinance, there would be a fine situation. So if after so many days you didn't do it, then there's a level 1 fine. And then you still ignore it, there's a level 2 fine. So there has to be an enforcement so that we can fine them and be able to get some of that money. So that's where his people will not be able to handle that end of it. And that's where we don't know where we go moving forward.
And keep in mind, if you haven't been by this property, this isn't one lot. This is 3 lots that he owns. And every lot is like that. It's full of junk. It's full of old cars and old trailers, old construction trailers, trash, wood, old fencing. It's just, now, it's okay in the summertime because the leaves are on the trees and nobody can see it. But this time of year, and the neighbors are calling all the time, and rightfully so. I mean, they have every right to be upset. So yes, and it's, you know, if it was one lot, that's one thing, but it's 3 lots, and he just brings more and more stuff, and where he gets it from, I have no idea. He's a nice man to deal with, don't get me wrong, but he just doesn't follow through on what he says he's going to do. So that's kind of why we're at where we're at.
What's the risk of we go in and clean this up and then he sues because that was his personal stuff that's now gone?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Wilson, don't we have a judgment through the courts?
We do. We have a court order authorizing us to go in and clean this property.
Yes. So I would assume that would take care of those potential, I would assume.
We know about court orders. We know about them. Just saying.
What does the city do? I mean, not only do you have to clean up the property, but you have to pay the people, and then you need reimbursement from the landowner, right? I mean, we're going to have to send out. So you're not only talking about, I mean, you're talking about a lot of money that the county's going to have to put out.
Yes.
And wait to have it come
Absolutely.
back in, because I know we put it on tax. It usually goes to tax sale if there's any kind of a lien like that on the property. So how much money are we talking about that?
I have no idea. I don't deal with the city code enforcement whatsoever.
You don't
I mean,
know
I
what
could
the
get that number. I could get that number of what they put aside every year in their budget. I
Right.
can certainly get that, yes.
Right. that would be good to know.
I used to serve on the Board of Works for the city. I used to serve on the Board of Works for the city.
Okay,
The city,
Beg pardon?
many times, would send in the street department to
Yes.
clean it up. So they wouldn't have a cost per se. So they just send in the street department. They have the resources to do that. When I was on the Board of Works, many times we'd send in the street department to clean up X, Y, Z.
right. But I know when the county has done that before, we would have demolition charges and different things we would have to charge and then put on the tax bill. And I don't know how I can't remember how we had the money to do that. I mean, it's been a while.
Well, back in the day, when I first started this position in the unsafe building fund, which I assume is the fund that you're talking about, Councilman, we used to have $150,000, $175,000 in that fund all the time. And now it's dwindled down to, I think it was down to,
100,000.
It was 60,000.
I'm gonna say it's 60 or
Just
less.
went up to
Yeah,
it.
so it just in this New Year's budget, it just went up to the 100,000, so.
So if we approve this 56,000, that would give them 150,000 this year. And then if that wouldn't be enough, you'd have to come back.
Well, it's like Councilman Roberts said, we have 100,000 in there. We do, and we can authorize this. But the rest of it's gonna go so quickly, we're gonna be standing right back here. Because, well, like Mr. Sheeline said, he can think of numerous properties.
Well, and I also know that it takes a lot of money if you have to call in someone to demolish a property
Sure.
and clean it up. I mean, it could be a lot more costly than $200,000 a year if you take on several properties. So you might want to limit the number that we're taking on each year. I mean,
But probably the most important pressing thing we have right now is this nuisance ordinance. Do we sign this nuisance ordinance and go forward? Do we have somebody that's going to enforce it? Or do we just let it lay on Mr. Allen's desk?
no,
That's a question.
you'd have to have in the ordinance how it's going to be enforced, kind of like the dog ordinance. I mean, not like the dog ordinance, but you'd have to have the legal paperwork that comes before the cleanup, and then who would enforce it and how, and then what they would have to do to pay it back. I mean, that would all be in the ordinance, would it not?
That is in the ordinance. The only problem is it says the enforcement officer. We don't know who that enforcement officer is.
So-
Is that going to be somebody in county government? Is that going to be someone we have to hire to do that position? To contract it out possibly? Those are the questions that we need to figure out.
That makes a lot of sense. And I don't know what would be the most
Yeah.
So
economically.
I asked that question tonight on behalf of Mr. Sheeline's office, because it's not fair to his office to expect him to do it. They can't. So we have to have some avenue to do that. So that's why I bring it up tonight.
Are you going to bring it up at budget time again? Are you
Probably
looking
bring it
for-
up again at another council meeting before budget time.
Well, we need to see what the legislators are going to do with our money before we can
Understand.
make big promises on new departments, okay?
Quite
So,
honestly, Councilwoman Lake, I'll probably keep bringing it up.
okay, well, and we'll probably, well, I don't know what the rest of the council will do, but.
I'll
I
probably
think
get
we
the
need
same
to-
answers, what you're gonna tell me,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'll keep bringing it up, because we have to.
I had a couple questions regarding the ordinance about what its objectives are to achieve. I think the first question I would have is that if you do establish an ordinance, would it have a baseline rubric where you'd be able to deal with those 25 different situations or properties that need to be cleaned up simultaneously? Would it prevent that particular individual from, if the property were to be cleaned up, not to go back and bring stuff in and do it all over again?
No guarantees of that, I'll be honest with you. They have the same problems in the city. They clean properties up, and 6 months later, somebody gets a call that that property is being trashed again. No guarantees, that's for
I
sure.
think the other question would be, would it be cheaper to just clean up the properties as opposed to establishing some type of apparatus to try to chase down people to get it and have liens and fines and things like that? I mean, I guess what are other communities doing in a similar situation to us
Well,
that have been successful?
I'm certainly not an expert on liens, but I think the purpose of the lien is to hopefully at some point in time recoup some of that money that the county has spent out. Because yes, we could go clean up the properties, but if we don't have a way to recoup those funds, at least to some degree, then the county is basically footing the bill for all of it.
My hope would be if you get one or two of them and you successfully do this, and maybe some of those 25 are going to go down because they'll say, these people are serious and I need to try to do this on my own.
That's,
Hopefully that would be the case.
that's a possibility. I wouldn't hold my breath, but, but that is a possibility, yeah.
I also think, Councilman, that by having a code enforcement person, they could keep an eye on those properties to keep them from getting back to that point.
Yep.
What office within county government do you think would best align to house that type of individual?
I would, my preference is, I would like to see us, when I say us, I would like to see the county, at least to start out with the ordinance. As you all know, we have no building inspectors in Howard County. We desperately need a building inspector. So, and I think we have somebody in mind, wherever Mr. Lipinski went. We have someone in mind that has the letters behind his name that can do all the inspections. My thought would be to do it on a contract basis to start and see how much we use that person. There's no reason to, in my opinion, to hire somebody full-time until we actually see that they're going to be needed on a full-time basis. So I would think that we would want to start out with some sort of a contract basis where if we have a trash property, we can send this person out. If we have a property, just like the one on Alto Road that we're talking about demolishing, that we could send the inspector out and look at that. And as Councilwoman Lake said, just demoing a property. When I started this position in 2010, I could tear down a house for $15,000. Now it's $35,000 just to tear down a house and get it moved away. So it's double or more.
Are you talking a building inspector / code enforcement combination?
I think that would be the way to start out. That's just my opinion. That way, and then we'll know, I think, fairly quickly how busy this person's going to be. And then when that contract money starts to exceed what we would have to pay someone full-time, then obviously that would be the time we would want to look at that. But I think starting out with a contract basis would be the way to go to hopefully get some properties cleaned up. And, because it's bad when people call and complain and then we get nothing done sometimes. And they keep calling back and complaining, well, you didn't do anything. Yeah, I did what the ordinance allows me to do. And unfortunately, that's my answer a lot of times, and that's not a very good answer, but.
So the commissioners would be the ones who would put together a description of what you want someone to do if they would come in on contract, right? And would we want to start it that way on contract? And I'm asking Jack now because you're commissioner.
I agree with Mr. Sheeline. I think a code enforcement / building inspector, so they could do both, and under a contract basis so we can see how it goes and go from there. I think that would be the way to go.
I have a question returning to the Stevens property. Is it viewed as being unsafe or just unsightly?
Oh, he's got a nice home there. There's nothing wrong with it. It's
No,
not
I'm talking
unsafe.
about the
It's just-
property
it's
that's
a
got
junkyard.
stuff.
It's a junkyard.
So is the junkyard viewed as being unsafe to other properties around there or just unsightly?
I will address that, Mr. Faulkner, is that you go out there and you see this multitude of vehicles there, You think about all the animals that's living back there, the raccoons, the possums, the probably foxes, and, you know, those, Mr. Best is here, he can answer that, but all the disease that could be back in there. And, you know, it just takes some child playing back there to get hurt. So when you talk about unsafe, is it unsafe? Yes, I'd say it is.
So is this nuisance, is it based upon what the zoning is, and then anything outside of the zoning would become a nuisance? I don't think we're in the business of settling neighborhood wars, right? But, I mean, some people just live different than other people.
Yeah,
What
but-
qualifies as the nuisance? Who is it that says, I don't like that, let's put it on the nuisance?
So
Well-
that's why we write a nuisance ordinance, so it's spelled out.
It's spelled out better,
Because you
better
keep
than what
your
we have
trash
now.
on your front porch, is that a nuisance? Some people live that way, like you said, but because some people keep 50 junk cars in their side yard, is that a nuisance? Yes, it is, unless you live out in the country and you have, you know, 50 acres of corn around you, okay? But if you live in a, what I call residential density, that's a different story.
I just think it needs to be more than someone's opinion.
Oh, we agree,
Right.
but then that's what that nuisance ordinance will do.
just because-
It will spell it out.
Yeah, just because my neighbor, you know, collects trash cans, I don't like them. I'd like for them not to be there, and
Right.
it's just what I have to do.
I would say, Mr. Cuthbert, that if I had children and they lived in that neighborhood and I was a neighbor with them, I would say it was an unsafe lot, absolutely. And second, I think we can sum this up, because I know that there's a lot of people that need to move and get their stuff done tonight. I hate to make people wait for, I know they're being patient. I guess that's what the neighbors were doing out there on Hickory, being patient. I guess we could go ahead and fund this, and we can pass our ordinance, and we can contract a building inspector. There's high costs involved with all of that, and there's a great chance that we're gonna come back in front of you folks in the next few months and say, we did exactly what we said we were going to do. We got the property cleaned up. We hired a building inspector / code enforcement, and it's July and we're out of money. So that's where we're summing this up is that absolutely we can do these things and we can make these things happen, but I take probably the opposite approach of what you take. You said maybe if we clean up a couple, they're gonna go away. I take the opposite approach. I think they're gonna pile on. And I don't wanna be Big Brother, and I don't wanna fix everybody's problem. But some of these are completely out of control and they have to be dealt with. And those are the ones that we brought, this is the first one we brought to your attention. There's probably one or two more that are very similar to this and such. So I think that you guys did a good job of putting the ball back in our court and saying, it's up to you guys to make this decision, but we're also going to tell you that in the future, we're probably going to ask for money, because we're not going to get the $53,000 back immediately. It's going to take time to get that money back. So the business of this is going to be back and forth, and we may, you know, and I think your point's well taken, Martha. Hopefully, if we do the things we're saying we do, by budget time, we can say, you know what, we can handle this with $25,000 a year in contract, or no, we can't handle it, we need a building inspector. So I was shocked when I became a commissioner and Howard County didn't have a building inspector. And I've had numerous meetings with Mr. Sheeline. We've met with several people in the community, and they're not happy, and they treat this man poorly. They've treated others poorly as well. And it's time that we have to deal with it. So I take the approach that you said, okay, we support what you're going to do, but if we do that, then we will probably be coming back and asking for additional funds. We're not going to spend the money willy-nilly, and that's not what we're saying, but it's going to go fast, so.
I'll just say one more thing, then I'll sit down and shut up. Councilman, you're absolutely right. Right now, all we have is an opinion, and that's not working. We need something more concrete than an opinion. I agree with that 100%, because that's what I've been working with for 15 years, and it doesn't work. So, thank you all.
I support you. I'm not, I'm
I
just throwing
understand,
out
I
questions.
understand completely. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Could we put limitations on, I'm not against writing an ordinance now and getting it in place, but we could limit it by the budget. I mean, at this point, we don't know what kind of money we're
Right.
gonna have. So, we can't commit to $200,000 or $300,000.
We know,
Yeah.
Right.
we know that.
So just if you put some kind of limitations of what your expectations are, okay?
This is about getting this out there. And
I
and
don't
we
disagree
appreciate
with
your indulgence, and we appreciate the
So-
crowd's indulgence in getting this out there.
Are you asking for this 56,000 now, or are you saying, hey, sometime down the road, we're gonna be asking for it?
Well, no, I think it's well said that we have 100,000 in our budget line right now. We can go ahead and do this, but I'm asking that don't be surprised here in weeks, months, that we're not right back here.
So I want to just make a short comment about appearances versus unsafe conditions. And this was what was in my mind. Recently, Roosevelt Lions have been asked to plant some arborvitae hedges around, I don't know, as a windshield or something for, I believe it's near the Roosevelt sewage plant. And that's something the Lions Club likes to do, and we do it. And they're skilled in doing it. So my thought was, if it's just unsightly, does an arborvitae hedge solve that? And say, okay, we got a green hedge around this junkyard, and now it looks better to the neighbors.
I'll
wish-
answer that very honestly. A property like this, if they're asking for $56,000 to clean this property up, it's a lot more than unsightly. I mean, if you
Well, that's
haven't
what
driven by
that's
there, you
what-
need to.
I wish those were the complaints we received,
Yeah.
Frank. I wish.
Mr.
Those
President,
aren't.
Yes, sir.
I hate to interrupt the conversation, but we have a judge who has to go, but she has to present before she goes. And she's been very patient and kind. And it might be good if we,
Any trailers? Just kidding.
Judge, do you need a code enforcement officer?
Mr. President,
So,
I can only promise I would take less than 2 minutes. And I'm not asking for any Howard County money.
sold.
I don't want to interrupt.
so I will forego my time and do all mine together, and if that's okay with the council.
Yeah, that'd be okay with me. I appreciate that, and I'll save my comments till you come back, I guess.
All
So,
right? I'll do all
Okay.
mine together.
so are we wanting to just go down to Superior Court 1 first and then jump back to Health Department and all that, or?
Yeah, it shouldn't take very long. It shouldn't take very long.
Yeah, okay. All right. Oh, yeah, that should be Circuit Court. I'm sorry. All right, so, yeah, we'll go to letter D, Superior Court 1, Judge Elkins.
Good evening. I'm basically back with respect to funds 9131 and 9132, both are drug court and reentry court. Those are both grants. And it's for this year, 2025, running January through December. Obviously not requesting monies from the county. What the Supreme Court has done through the Office of Court Services is they have provided certain amounts of funding as outlined that take care of some of the drug court and reentry court needs. And those include things like drug testing supplies, some graduation supplies, and other monies that you can see there. And the total of one is just over 18,000. The total of the other is about 21,500. But what it allows us to do is, other than the screens and the incentives, it allows us, with respect to the major changes from the last couple of years, is participant needs. We're now able to address emergencies and other things that come up with respect to persons who are in both of those programs. And we're simply asking that, obviously, those be approved so that we can spend those throughout the year. If you have any questions regarding any specifics, be more than happy to go over that, but not trying to take up too much time.
Any questions for the grant fund for reentry court and drug court?
Just a comment, I was pleased to be able to attend the recent graduation from the drug court. Thank you for that invitation. I appreciate the
You're welcome.
opportunity to go and celebrate with those people.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thank you.
We will then jump to letter F and go to circuit court for Judge Murray, if that's okay. Sorry, we're going to jump around.
Thank you, Judge.
2 minutes. My request is similar to my colleague, Matt. We're just wanting your blessing and approval for spending our grant funds for 2025. This is for the Family Recovery Court, problem-solving court that Circuit Court has. It's for Chin's parents. And we were allotted $19,830. Those funds are used both for training, participant housing, drug screens, transportation, assistance for our participants. It's a way to give an extra help to people who find themselves with substance abuse problems, children, and they're trying to get back on track. It's been certified for over 5 years now. We just got recertified. We've had a total of almost 60 people participate. About 40% have graduated. 20% have just left because they've achieved their goals but without graduation. So we have a pretty good, it's a successful program. It's very positive. We don't use, unlike the criminal courts, it's a civil process. We don't use incarceration or any of that. It's just basically trying to help people through positive reinforcement and actual help. So I'm just asking for your blessing, as the law requires that the county council do so. This is for grant funds, no county money. It was allotted to us from the Indiana Office of Court Services. Any questions?
I'd just like to say, Judge Murray, I'd like to thank you for all you do, and appreciate you being here, and sorry to hold you
No,
up.
not at all, and I appreciate you pushing me ahead for this. And I appreciate everything you all do too.
Thank
And
you.
I have a lot of help.
You do a lot, though, on your own, too, and we really appreciate it.
Anything else?
Yep. I would just like to echo and just thank you for all you're doing for our families and trying to, help them out with the kids. And that's a tough spot. And so thank you for having a kind heart and trying to do the best you can. So
Thank you, appreciate it. Okay, have a nice evening.
you too.
You too.
All right, we'll jump back up to letter B. We'll go to the Health Department. Mr. Vest, you've been waiting patiently.
Yeah, no problem. I apologize for missing last meeting.
Appreciate you coming tonight.
Yeah, should have went last time. So all three of these are funds that we get money from the state on, so none of this is county money. The 1168 and 1206, those are the old health maintenance and trust funds that we used to receive every year. Those have gone away now. This is carryover money that's left over that I'm requesting appropriation for this year. So that's those two. And then 1161 is a little more complicated. We got Public Health Services Fund. So that's how we get a large amount of our funding from the state. Probably heard of HFI or whatnot. But so my budget for that is due to the state by June 1st. So there's a different timing for budgets for the county. So every year there's going to be a change, whatever happens with salaries, and after budget hearings and all that. There might be some different amounts that need to be changed around for the budget. So, and then also, they threw a couple $1,000s more to us. They made that available. And then to top it all off, then there's the carryover. So whatever's left at the end of the year, if we want to spend it, we have to ask for additional appropriations. So that's what all of this is, 1161 lumped into one deal. That's what the additional 35,000 is, just whatever money may have been left over from the salaries and then the additional carryover that we had. So, do you have any questions for me on any of that?
On the vehicles, what does that go to?
Just the
1161.
ability to purchase a vehicle or to lease vehicles.
Okay.
That's all that.
Okay.
I mean, I could, some of those have some strange terms like discretionary. We partner with people outside, other groups in the county. This is our way of granting money. So there's an application process that you may be aware of.
Oh, nice.
You can go on our website, people can apply, and then there's deadlines they have to meet and such. But, so we've set aside quite a bit of money for that. That's why it's termed discretionary. So we give that money out to others to do some of the things that we can't do ourselves,
Yeah,
to make
that's a
it.
great idea.
That's all I've got.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much, James. Community Corrections, Dustin, you ready?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm just here to request an additional appropriation of $10,000 in our project income account. That is for the repayment of overpaid fees. So we had a process where there was a debit card process where persons who were in our community corrections program may have overpaid and either been terminated from services or just overpaid, and they would receive that money back on a debit card. We found that we need to send this money to Indiana unclaimed. So we're creating a fund so that we can return fees that are not owed to us back to the participant or Indiana unclaimed. And that, we don't anticipate it anywhere near $10,000, but we wanted to make sure because we're doing some cleanup and going backwards a little ways.
So it might be higher this first year and then kind of level out.
Yes. It'll be a little bit higher, but we still don't think that that's
Yeah,
going to be
I get you.
the amount. But
Makes sense if you're going to claw back some.
questions?
Hearing none, you're good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dustin.
Thank you.
Next would be Veterans Court. The lovely Jessica Seacrease will present because he was already here last month to kind of go over this. So go ahead.
So he was here last month. This is just to appropriate his grant fund dollars.
If I remember right, it was kind of something that he threw together kind of just as he got in office and threw it, shot in the dark, and he got grant funds for it. So it was, he was pleased with that, so. Okay. All right, we're gonna move back up to the top. Commissioner Dodd or Mr. Sheeline, I don't know who was here last, so.
Well, thank you for being so indulgent of us this evening. The basement restoration of $72,048.99. These were funds that was appropriated last year, just needs to be reappropriated this year. I think you all got an explanation of this. So.
Yeah, just didn't get paid out by the year end.
Right.
Yeah. And which basement restoration was this for?
What's it for?
Yeah, which one? The actual restoration downstairs here or somewhere else?
Yes, it's
Okay,
downstairs.
okay, that's fine.
Which, I want to
Okay.
talk to you about another basement here in just a
Well, I
little bit.
know, I have a feeling you were gonna bring it up.
Okay, you want to keep going?
Keep going.
Yep.
You want to go down to 1237 opioid restricted fund, which is $100,897.61. As you know, our opioid restricted funds are from lawsuits made by the state attorney general, and again, these just need to be reappropriated into this year. Next.
Yes, sir, if you're ready.
Keep moving.
What's the difference between
Okay,
one,
the next in the 1238 opioid unrestricted fund of $280,713.33. These funds, the difference between a restricted and unrestricted is just what it says. Restricted means you can only use those for certain reasons, and unrestricted is not. Again, those just need to be appropriated into this year. In the 1239, the Meyer Opioid Settlement Fund, these are administrative funds, which allows us to use these funds to administer the opioid funds, which is $1,925.
Commissioner, roughly how many more years will this be coming through? Do you have a timeline on that?
We don't know.
Okay.
You know, we don't know if there's a new suit out there on the horizon or not. We just know we like it when the checks come in. So that's all we know. We do know that the bigger checks, they'll keep dwindling down. So.
Bless you.
Bless you.
And then down at the bottom of that page in Fund 8935 Energy Efficiency Block Grant Fund, the $75,000, that was from a fund that we had applied for and received. And so again, that needs to be reappropriated into this this year. Is that for equipment as well, Tim? Right. So, and that's all from that fund, $200,000.
And I assume that's for some energy efficient upgrades
Yes.
that we've got going
Those
on?
have to be used for certain items like
Light
light
stuff, yeah.
various things.
Yep.
And that's all I have, sir.
You want this, Mike?
I have a couple questions going back to the 1112 on the unsafe properties, if that's all right. The unsafe properties? So that quote, did you just get one quote, or do we need to get multiple quotes, or how does that?
I'm gonna turn that over to Mr. Wilson.
Okay, that's,
We had several codes, and
Okay.
that was by far the cheapest.
okay, that was
That's
the,
why I sent it to you. I have other quotes that are six figures.
no, that's fine. I appreciate that. I just want to make sure that if we had to do that, you did do that. Okay. And then I really appreciate everybody's input on that. I do feel like maybe there needs to be some more discussion with PAC or whatever about kind of some direction with some of that, as far as adding another employee or whatever that might look like. I'm going to stay out of that. I'm just saying.
That's why we thought going with the contract until we get a better feel for that might be kind of a better way to go.
Yeah.
Especially with a building inspector / code enforcement. Let's get a feel for it and see how that goes.
You know, I'd like to make, if I can, please.
Sure.
After hearing the conversation, I like what the commissioners are doing here and the plan director is doing. There has been a need for a building inspector for a long, long time in the county, and it just hadn't been prioritized enough to be done. But our community has expectations of what they can expect living in the county. And we're all hyper aware of George Orwell's vision of Big Brother, and none of us want that, and I'm sure it won't go there. And, but I think we ought to go ahead and give the commissioners some room to breathe on this and kind of see what's out there and how to develop this to make Howard County a better place to live. And I don't know where it's going to end up, but you're going to find out with the help of the other commissioners and the Plan Commission. But I would endorse approving the additional appropriation at this point, just to give you some room to grow and to do what you got to do.
I will tell you a side note of going out and looking at some of these properties. We got a complaint, the one with the goats and pigs and everything, of a smell. And when we went out there, we noticed that across the road was a small ditch. So we sent our county surveyor out there, and they ran some tests on this ditch. And they could do some testing of the houses along there. They found, and please don't quote me on this, but I think there were 14 properties that was dumping raw sewage into this ditch. That was just a side thing of us going out there, that they found these properties dumping raw sewage into this ditch. So you find things when you go out there and start looking. That's something that a code enforcement person would have done. So there you go.
So, can I ask a follow-up question on this? Yeah. Well, hopefully you can clear this up in my mind. Is this $56,000 request for additional appropriation? Does your ability to sign off on the nuisance ordinance, is it blocked if this appropriation does not go through? Or do you just see this appropriation as giving us some more money to look at a number of other buildings, realizing that we haven't spent everything that's already been appropriated, which I think somebody said is around 100,000. So is it like what John had said, it gives you more operating room to plan for other properties that are in disrepair and need to be cleaned up, that kind of stuff. Would it affect your decision to sign off on the nuisance ordinance if you didn't have this?
What's going to affect, and I can only speak for me, not the other two commissioners. What's going to affect my decision to sign off on this nuisance ordinance is that we have a way to enforce it. So we've got this nuisance property here that needs to be dealt with. But then we have this nuisance ordinance that needs some kind of enforcement. So if we have the ability to go out there and contract to Mr. Sheeline's office for a building inspector / code enforcement, that's going to tell me that we may be ready for this nuisance ordinance because now we have a way to enforce it. Without that, I'm not willing to sign off on a nuisance ordinance.
Okay. Thank you.
So will that go through Greg's office, or will that be in the commissioner's budget? The line item is.
Yes, I mean, it would be under our budget so we can pay for it, but it's going to be under his auspice.
Okay.
We've been planning for this.
I knew I had heard.
We've even planned an office down there in his area. So this has been a hope. You know, we've been trying to plan for it for quite a while. Any other questions for me?
Yeah, but I'll ask it later.
I understand.
Offline, right? Offline.
I understand what you guys are doing, and I'm behind you. I know that there's places out there that need cleaned up and this is certainly one of them. But I'm interested in what the nuisance ordinance is going to look like. Because it seems to me like it's an HOA for the county. If everybody understands what style of living that they're assigned at their property, then it's all good. I'm just a little fearful.
I live under an HOA, and it's not, and I'd be happy to share a draft of that nuisance ordinance with you. Any of the council members would like to look at it.
Well, I'm going to ask the question now because I can hardly wait. How many complaints do you have to get before it's considered a nuisance?
It's not the number of complaints. If you go with this, are you speaking now or with a nuisance ordinance?
You know, if one neighbor calls and says, you know, my neighbor's got 3 garbage cans in the backyard and the lids keep blowing off and trash keeps flowing out, that could be a complaint, right? So, but that's probably not a nuisance or a safety thing.
Well, excuse me for since my throat surgery, I have to have water.
Yeah, that's,
All right.
So, excuse me. If I got a complaint like that now, without that nuisance ordinance, I'd go out there and say, look, you need to go talk to your neighbor. What neighbors do, they talk to each other.
sure.
The complaint I got the other day, the guy called me, I went out there, and he said, can we walk back here? And I said, yes, we walked back there. And before I ever got there, I heard these 50, and I didn't count them, but I'm guessing.
Chickens.
I heard these roosters crowing before I ever got there. Now, if you're out in your backyard and you're trying to have a cookout with your family, and you have all these roosters crowing, and, you know, that many roosters, they crow day and night, 24 hours a day. That's a nuisance. So, you know, sometimes common sense plays a big role. A big role.
The point of my question was to try to quantify what level of complaint or threshold of complaint that says, we got to do something, we got to act on this because there's more than one person. It's not just a neighbor to neighbor, you know, your dog ran across my yard, I didn't like it, blah, blah, blah. But it's risen to a level that's more significant. And so my point was to,
That's why as a
you know, is there a
commissioner,
way as to figure out where is that threshold that it comes on just a little neighborly complaint versus a neighborhood nuisance?
that's why as a commissioner, it's important to have a nuisance ordinance so it's documented, it's written down. I'm sure this guy, he can answer that because he deals with that all the time.
And Frank, to your point, a lot of the nuisance properties seem like they're in the same area. They're really close together. I don't know, maybe something in the water.
Which school district is that?
No comment.
You can figure it out. Typically, when I get a call, I'll drive by the property, I'll take a look at it, and some of them do nothing, absolutely nothing. Some of them, if I feel like it's a little bit of a problem, I contact Mr. Sheeline, and I typically contact Mr. Wilson. And the three of us work together, and we start off the process with a letter, and 1 out of 10 with that letter remedies the problem. And then 9 out of 10 don't, and then we have to, what do we do from here? Because we've already sent the letter, and some of these people are relentless. And I understand what you're saying about the homeowners thing situation, but we've met individually with people, and they told us we're not doing our jobs, we're not doing anything we're supposed to do. Who's your boss? Our boss. I said, you. And they said, well, that's not good enough. Who's your boss? And it just is a process. And right now, there's no enforcement to it. There's after the letter, if they don't If they don't do anything, then we just hope that we'll send them another letter. 30 days later, we send them another letter, and occasionally that helps, but most of the time it doesn't. So we feel like we need teeth in this. Do we want to be a homeowners association? No. And 99% of Howard County, it's not a problem. But there is it's even better than that. Probably 99.5% of the county, it's not a problem. But there are that 0.5% that can't get along with their neighbors and or make their property a nuisance. And unfortunately, people don't need government till they need it. And they want us to leave them alone, and then when they need us, you better respond to them. And that's what we run into a lot.
And if I could just validate my point, when I go to Mr. Sheeline, when I get a complaint, I'll go to his office and I'll say, here's what's going on, here's what I've seen out there. Many times, the first thing I see him do is open up his many, many books that he has, and he'll read this to me. Well, this is allowed, this is allowed, this is allowed. He goes to his documentation and tells me what's allowed out there and what isn't. And that's nice because it's documented. There's a list of things that's allowed and what's not allowed. I'm a member of the County Planning Commission, and he'll do that with us in Planning Commission meetings. He'll say, here's what's allowed out there, here's what's not allowed out there. It's very nice to have that documentation. Very helpful.
If you don't mind, I'll give you a quick overview, then I'll be quiet. Thank you all for taking so much time to listen to us. I think this is extremely important for the county.
Yeah.
I have a part-time code enforcement officer that works in my office. He works 20 hours a week. When we get a complaint from any of the commissioners, or if the public calls us and says, hey, my neighbor's doing this, first thing I do is I send Mike out. He goes out, he takes pictures. He's not allowed to go on that subject property, but he can take pictures from the road. So we document it, and just like someone just said, sometimes it's common sense. I look at the picture, this is a neighbor problem. They need to figure this out on their own. We don't need to get involved in this. But then there's other pictures that I see, and as Councilman Cuthbert said, it's an opinion. Unfortunately, it's my opinion, and I don't like being stuck in that position sometimes. But sometimes when you look at pictures, it's obvious that this is more than a neighbor problem. There's other problems involved here that need to get resolved. And the first thing I do is I send a letter, and a lot of times I get callbacks from the people. Most of the time they don't want to do anything. They start, well, my neighbor's doing this, and I don't want to hear that. But when it gets to that point, sometimes I have to get Alan involved, and because obviously if he sends a letter from his office, if you get a letter from the Plan Commission director, it's 90%, it's going to go in the trash can. You're not probably going to open it. You get a letter from the county attorney, you're going to open that letter and at least read it. So Alan does work with me a lot, and I do appreciate his efforts. But the councilman was right. Right now it's an opinion, and it's my opinion on how bad those properties are. Sometimes it's pretty simple. You drive, just like that, you drive by it, yeah, this thing needs to get cleaned up. There's no question about it. Or we need to have a conversation with these folks. And we've had several conversations. Commissioner Bray brought a property to me a year and a half ago, and it was a trash property. I called the young man. He came in. We had a long conversation. He said, I work 60 hours a week. Give me time, and I'll get this cleaned up. And I said, well, how much time do you need? And here we are a year and a half later, but guess what? He's getting the property cleaned up slowly, slowly, slowly. And the neighbors have called me and said, thank you, he is cleaning the property up. He lives by himself. So it does work to some degree, but some of these bigger properties, we really need help on. So, all right, thank you all. Appreciate all your time.
Anybody else for the good of the cause?
I just want to make sure that you guys understand that I'm all for giving you the tools that you need, right? And I think that we need to make sure that we put those in place so that they are enforceable. And not just going off of it. you can pull your book out and say, this is good, bad, then we've got all the ground we need to stand on, and let's go after it. So,
And I appreciate you guys taking the time to listen tonight. It's been very helpful, really has. So, and I appreciate it.
Ready for a motion?
Go ahead, Frank.
I move we approve these additional appropriations as requested and presented.
Second?
Motion's been, additional appropriations been motioned by Councilman Faulkner and seconded by Councilman Roberts. All those in favor, assign aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Additional appropriations carries. All right, that took us a good little bit. We're through it. Thank you, guys. So there are no transfers, no salary ordinance amendments tonight. This is a rarity. So I will move on to old business. Are there any old business items anybody wants to bring up? Okay, hearing none, go to new business. Anybody? You again?
Me again. I'm so sorry, but I thought you guys needed to know this. A couple weeks ago, we had a small pipe break over in the Jeff Stout building basement. So we went through and we fixed it. About $24,000 insurance paid for it. At 5:05 this morning, and I brought video, at 5:05 this morning, this is what was discovered. So it ran like that until about 7:30, 8 o'clock. Just like that. That's a lot of water.
You take a shower underneath that.
You could. That's a heck of a walk-in shower. So there was quite a bit of damage again happened. This is from the chiller, and so immediately once it was discovered around 8 o'clock, they had maintenance shut off the water. But it continued for a little bit because all that water drains from the other floors, from third floor all the way down to the basement. This is down in the EMA area. Pam, you might show them kind of what's what, and the stairway back there.
Sandy walked in at 30 and water running, and that's where she walked in. I have no idea what Sandy says in this video, so I feel not responsible.
We thought you might have said some things.
She thought. So this actually ran until about 9:30 PH came to shut the water off because there was buckets that it was still running. So that's the entryway, hallway, where the first damage was the first time we leave. Second time, water's there. Walk around the radio room, that was damaged also. There are radios and consoles and not lose any of the radio equipment. That was the first time we moved it up, so we didn't lose any of that. We're gonna see. This is scary. She's standing.
I know.
So that, and that kind of leads back into where there are probably, I have no idea how many court records are back there, but it is a matter of time, in my opinion, my humble opinion, that we're going to start losing court records. That's what she said. So you'll see that she walks back. That is Janice's office. But there are records stored back there in that basement. There are hundreds and hundreds.
I'd say hundreds of thousands.
Yes. So that's Janice's office, and I think it stops here. But there are, remember that all those records were stored stored in this basement. When this basement got flooded, they got moved over to that basement. I am not a plumber, but John Roberts is. So there is a dialectical union.
Perfect.
All right, there's a dialectical union that a copper pipe and a different type of pipe go together. And my understanding is that when the pressure builds in the basement, these things tend to break. That basement's pretty old, and there are lots of them down there. It is a matter of time before we end up flooding the record again. If you remember, we had to, some of you may not have been here, we had to put them in a semi. We had to freeze dry them. We had to send them off to Texas. They had to bring them back up to temperature, and then they brought them back. It was millions of dollars to do that. And I think you need to know how serious it is going to get over there if we don't do something with those records, if we don't start to take care of, and he's saying it's expensive. It is very expensive, but it is a mandate that we keep these records. What we're working on right now is a plan to figure out how we can do this in stages.
I wanted to tell you what we've done today. EMA, we have moved EMA out to Berkeley. They're going to set up shop out there. Their radios and stuff, they can operate from out there. We needed to get Janice and Sandy out of that basement. We can't have them down there with all this moisture. So they can go out, we walked out there with them, we walked through it. They can operate out of Berkeley. That'll be fine. So fortunately, you know, we got bad weather season coming. That was my concern. Can they operate out there? They said, yes, we're good there. So Pam is going to get an estimate of what it's going to cost to tear out that drywall that got wet so that can start drying out down there. We'll leave it open for a little bit so it can dry thoroughly. There's no rush in repairing it right now. So that's going on. We're also going to get an estimate on repairing some of these unions that Pam was just talking about, so that, you know, the next one, the next weakest one doesn't break. We might as well look at replacing those now. So that's where we're at today. I just wanted you to know what happened today, why EMA is moved, and why we're getting these estimates. We'll keep you appraised of what's going on, but I thought you should know. Okay?
Thank you for that update. I guess we'll see how bad the damage will be on EMA and how much it's going to cost to fix that, but it might be less than the Document Mountain stuff we had to scan and all that to Texas, so.
Fortunately, insurance helped us out a lot there. I'm not sure I want to turn this into insurance. We know what happens when you have a lot of insurance claims. So
it's not good.
We'll keep you updated.
Okay, thank you guys for that. Any other council business? Anything else for the good of the cause? Do I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Moved.
Second.
Motion's been properly made and seconded by Councilwoman Lake and Councilman Roberts. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting, assign aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We are adjourned.